Hello my friend and welcome to another animation tutorial. I recently created a hand-drawn animation of a cute dragon for the Lunar New Year. In this video, I will show you my process so that you can create and animate your own little dragon. I created this animation in Adobe Fresco. There's a free version of this software if you would like to try it out. However, the principles I will show you here, they can be used in any other software. I created a file in the sizes 1920 by 1080, which is essentially a full HD, and I knew that this was the format I wanted my final video to look like, so choose whatever fits for you. Then I added a new empty layer separate from the background and activated the animation tool. My first step was to choose my inspiration for the dragon. So I did a bit of research on dragons and I remembered that I had this picture of a cool statue that I saw when traveling in Vietnam. I used this for my main source of inspiration and started retracing it to get familiarized with the lines of this cool looking dragon. Since this was for the Lunar New Year, it was important for me to understand the differences between Asian and Western dragons. There's of course differences also within Asia, but at high level, they have more of a serpent look, they don't have large wings, and they have whiskers and horns. They're a symbol of good fortune, and most importantly, they're associated with water, and therefore they do not breathe fire like Western dragons. The more I drew, the more I realized that it was too complex for an animation and I had way too many details. Still, the exercise was very useful because now I knew the key aspects and I drew a simplified version of it. There are many ways to draw dragons, from fierce and scary to magical. I went for a cartoonish look with vibrant colors which spreads joyful and celebratory vibes, and it just happens to match my style. Using the pencil, I started to sketch the dragon's head along a wavy trajectory I imagined. Instead of drawing the entire dragon like me here, I recommend that you isolate the different elements of your character because it makes it easier and less overwhelming to animate. And you want to start with the head because it also dictates the movement of the rest of the body. As I was sketching the dragon frame by frame, I focused primarily on the position and the hair. For the position of the head, I mostly duplicated the head into a new frame and used the transform tool to move the head a bit further and rotate it along the path. My dragon has this pointy hair to mimic the horns, which I used to indicate that the dragon is flying and show how it's interacting with the wind. This is a critical step to make the animation look believable. It's part of the 12 principles of animation. I've used here the squash and stretch. Essentially, I'm stretching the hair to give the illusion of speed, so as the dragon is flying faster, the wind will blow the hair down and stretch it. Since I knew I wanted to write text on my animation, I needed the dragon to breathe out something. Even if it wasn't fire, I added like a cloud. To indicate that it was the dragon that actually blew this cloud, I had to create this like wavy bit to connect the cloud to the dragon's mouth. Here now I have finally drawn a trajectory, which I should have done from the very beginning. As you can see here, the trajectory is kind of this flowy line. You could say it's made out of arcs, which is another animation principle. What you see now is finally the moment where I decide to separate the head from this body that I was intending to draw, because I needed to realign the head a little bit better to the trajectory that I now had drawn, and later I was going to focus on the body. So isolating the elements is really the most important thing. If you take anything away from this video, that's the one thing I want you to take away. To add again a bit more dynamic into how the dragon is flying, I decided to add another squash and stretch here. You will see how I'm actually squooshing the head this time, and the hair is really long and sort of stretched. And this is because I wanted to, maximum speed. To make this action even stronger, I decided to also give the hair a bit of like a follow through. So as the dragon is flying up, it slows down or almost stays in place for a split second, and the hair follows through. That's why you saw me there drawing it going into the opposite direction. And even though this is the principle follow through, it kind of also serves me as the anticipation principle. So right before it squashes and stretches, I am anticipating that action with like a slow or inverted action. Now that I was happy with the head's position along the trajectory, I moved on to the next elements. And as mentioned, make sure to isolate each element on different layers and animate each from start to finish, so frame by frame until the very last one, before moving on to the next element. The order that I recommend you use is first start with the head, next is the basic body outline, then add the body details and the tail, next move on to the front foot, and in another layer the back foot. That's because I animated them slightly differently. Finally, have a separate layer for the cloud. As you're animating, you can play around with the animation settings to get the speed that you like. You can do this by determining how many frames per second should be played. Make sure as well that all of the layers that you have created have the same number of frames so that the animation is aligned and does not overlap incorrectly. Leave empty frames if necessary. The reason for this is, for example, if you have 30 frames for the head, but only 15 frames for the body, what's going to happen is the body is going to loop twice with the position set match the frames 1 to 15 for the head, and for the second round, so from 16 to 30 for the head, it's still going to show the frames 1 to 15 from the body. Now that the sketching is done, you have completed the heavy lifting. The sketch becomes the blueprint of your animation, and now you can simply follow along. Now it's the time for the crisp lines and color. As for my color scheme, red and gold are the most representative colors of the Lunar New Year, so I went with red and a kind of a yellowish. In Chinese culture, red represents prosperity and gold represents fortune. These are warm tones, so to balance the image, I used a cool blue tone for the background. Unintentionally, the dragon started to look like Mushu from Mulan. I wonder if Disney thought similarly when selecting their colors. Now we want to add crisp lines and the color. I focused first on the outlines. I was using the vector brush, which means I can easily later use the bucket tool to fill in the shapes. At that point, I wasn't sure if I wanted the fill color and outlines to be the same or different. In the end, I made the fill color a little bit lighter for a more cartoonish look. I created as many layers as colors that I used, so one layer for the outlines and one for the fill color. This was the case for the dragon, eyes of the dragon, along with a nose detail and the cloud. After watching the animation, I added eyelids to add a bit more movement and complexity to the dragon as it was blowing out air. Once the dragon and cloud animation were finished, I added music and effects on Adobe Premiere Pro to finalize the video. I use Envato Elements for all of my sound effects, video footage, etc. So check out the link in the description below if you're looking for footage yourself. I hope this short tutorial was useful for you to get started with cute animations on Adobe Fresco or the software of your choice. If so, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more creativity inspiring content, and for more animation related content, check out the animation playlist. And ta-da! Here's the final dragon animation. Enjoy!